once again, thank you everyone to this first communication about the ONE-PIX developments that we will present. Matthias Rib, Gaspard Rusias, and myself, Antoine Fournier. In very brief, what you can remember is that it is an hyperspectral camera, so it provides images, and for each pixel it provides the whole spectrum. And depending the spectrometers that you have into it, you have different resolution and precision and abundance of wavelengths. It relies on single pixel imaging, which is a branch of the compressive sensing, and it was developed in an open source way of design, and it is already available on GitHub at this address. Our employers, to Mathieu, Gaspard, and myself, are Arvalis Institut du Végétal and Photonics Bretagne. So we promote the project in their names. And we already have this year first collaboration with our geographical neighbor, Nokia, which has R&D teams here in Lannion, IoTR, which is an institution in multimodal image analysis and fusion of remote sensing and proximal sensing data, mainly focused on signal processing sciences. And also with ERHS, which is a specialized phenotyping platform in a control environment to evaluate the first stage of life of plants in indoor conditions. So a lot of complex words. Do not worry, we will explain everything in the next slides, starting with Mathieu.
Okay, so first, let's talk about what is hyperspectral imaging and what it is useful for. What you may know in your everyday life is RGB imaging. It's a way to image red, green, and blue spectrum in 3 channels. But in spectral, in scientific imaging, we talk about spectral imaging. When we sample less than 100 channels, we talk about multispectral imaging, as we can see here on the top right, sorry. But when we go beyond and sample more than 100 spectral channel, we then talk about hyperspectral imaging, and then the sensor is able to measure what we call data cubes. That means you have a 3D stack of imaging for a 3D stack of images for each wavelength sampled. So why are data cubes and hyperspectral imaging very useful for scientific research? First of all, here we have 3 examples. First of all, you have for precision agriculture, it can be useful to create mapping of compound concentration, like here for chlorophyll. Also in geology for compound identification, and at last with optical sorting, for instance, for plastic sorting. It is also very useful in medical research or pharmacology, etc. And as Antoine said, the particularity of the kit we are presenting to you today is that it is using single pixel imaging. That is a new method of imaging using compressive sensing. So the principle is to reconstruct an image using one single detector and projecting structured patterns onto the scene. As you can see in this simulation with the Fourier basis, we project many patterns and reconstruct images like this. And to do hyperspectral imaging, what you have to do is to replace the single detector by a spectrometer, and then you can obtain hypercubes. And that this technology that I presented you, hyperspectral imaging, is not a new technology. It exists since, let's say, 40 years. But it is not widely spread today because of its cost at first, but also because the data cubes are not objects that are easily interpretable for users. Also, it represents large volumes of data, and to analyze this data, we need models and databases to process the images and obtain the easily interpretable and actionable insights that we saw before. But the problem is that to do so, we need affordable sensors and sensors that are widely spread in the community to do so. So that's what Casper is going to explain now with our kit.
Okay, so to minimize these problems, we need to create a community of researchers and users around the ONE-PIX kit. The ONE-PIX kit is a low-cost camera, so on the community can buy it or make it by themselves and work on to the creation of data sets and new models, but also work on new single pixel imaging methods or implement new features. So so in parallel, we work on the development of an industrial sensors named ProPix, and this industrial camera have more advanced technological performances than the ONE-PIX, and it's more adapt for aggressive environments like industrial environments or agricultural fields. But the industrial sensor ProPix is compatible with all open technological developments of the community. So for a focus on the ONE-PIX kit, it made to be the more open source and modular as possible. So in the hardware, we have a video projector that projects structured patterns on the scene, and a spectrometer that measure spectrums for all of these patterns, projected patterns. And these two components are connected to a Raspberry Pi board that just stores measures of the spectrometers and create also the patterns. And in it, we have a single pixel imaging algorithm to build the hypercube with the measures of the spectrometers. So all of these components are stored in a box, and this box can be created with two basic tools of FabLab and research of laboratory, like laser cutting CNC and 3D printing, 3D print. So all plan of this box are available on GitHub platforms. And we work on also on the software to be compatible with many brands of spectrometers. So today we can work with Advantes spectrometers and Ocean Insight, but if you have another brand of spectrometer, just you need to be sure that it can be used with Python language. So because the software of the ONE-PIX kit was developed in Python, and all of soft is also available on the GitHub platform. It was also compatible with many OS, so Raspbian if you want to use it with Raspberry Pi, but you can also use another PC and with Ubuntu or Windows, for example. We worked also on the informatic format of data to be of Hypercube to be compatible with other post-processing software, for example, Perclass and Gerbil. So today we can extract Hypercube in NV format, HDF5 formats, and TIFF formats. We already work to create a community of users with two collaboration. And the first collaboration was realized with IETR, l'Institut d'électronique et des technologies du numérique, with the local team of Lannion, and also a local team of Lannion of Nokia. And we work to adapt the ONE-PIX kit to be compatible with addressing imaging and IoT. So the principle of the addressing imaging is to measure RGB image before to measure spectral data. And with this RGB image, we can make a segmentation on it to find interesting area in it. And after that, ONE-PIX just take measure spectrum of each area. So the IETR works on to create non-supervised algorithm of segmentation named Gwen. So it's very useful because you can use it on many use cases. And in parallel, Nokia worked to create another segmentation algorithm based on more on neuronal networks on the detection of bit plans and widths. So the problem is that the Raspberry Pi don't have computer resources to make the segmentation in real time. So we need to so Nokia worked in IoT to create a connection between the ONE-PIX and the GPU servers. So the ONE-PIX take RGB image and send it to the GPU server. The GPU server may make the segmentation and return the result to the ONE-PIX, and the ONE-PIX can take a spectrum of each classes. The second collaboration was realized on a phenotyping campaign of maize. So the IRHS work to create a first database on 2 cultivars of maize with the ONE-PIX camera in laboratory. And in parallel with Arvalis, we work to create a dataset with in the field, in the phenotyping platforms of Arvalis named Phenofield. And we work to create it with the ProPix camera, the industrial camera. So today we have this database, and we work to analyze it and maybe publish the result in a scientific paper. So there is many collaboration to do with us. We think about, for example, implement new single pixel imaging methods. Today, the ONE-PIX kit work with Fourier patterns, but there is also Hadamard patterns or Bernoulli patterns. We can work together also to create database on new use case like optical sorting or geology, pharmacology, and on models. And also we can work to create collaboration in robotics field to make the ONE-PIX more compatible with robotics environments. For example, be compatible with ROS package, continue to develop IoT or improve technological performances of the kit with the modularity, because we can change spectrometers, video projectors, etc. And finally, we can work also on a new spectroscopic method with fluorescence imaging or polarization imaging.
Okay. Among others. Thank you. As you see, there are a lot of things to do. So there is a lot of things to do with this open framework to work. So do not hesitate to do it by yourself. There is absolutely no problem. We can even help you if you have questions about integrating this solution at your place. We can exchange on technical difficulties, but we can also sell to you a pre-assembled ONE-PIX. This is also the best way for us to try to stabilize the activity and ensure a continuity in the maintenance of the on the forge and having times to merge the different contribution from the different contributors. If you develop something, a new way to assemble it, a new spectrometer interface it on it, everything new that you wish to share with the community, we engage to look at it, to help you merge it and maintain the consistency of the whole project, and with a greater respect to your credits. Every contributor will have a very clearly description of what he contributes to or not. So do not hesitate to go this GitHub link. We can share it in the discussion also, or to contact us directly at those address. So that's it.